Rex Ryan attempted to slander Shedeur Sanders, but Michael Irvin's ferocious retort instantly crushed him. Following Ryan's criticism of Sanders' widely shared Rolex miming celebration, Irvin entered into the discussion, not to argue, but to discredit what he perceived as just another cheesy attempt by a media machine that delights in disparaging self-assured young athletes, particularly those with the name Sanders. Even though Shedeur hasn't played it down in the NFL, he's already the public's worst enemy. Irvin was blunt. Behavior isn't the point of this. It has to do with prejudice. Shedeur is crucified, while a quarterback from any other background is commended for his moxie. Irvin revealed the animosity behind the media's courteous exterior. The only reason the miming, attitude, and confidence are an issue is because people are upset that he possesses them. Michael Irvin was making accusations, not conjecturing, accusing the media of planned disrespect, of transforming a self-assured celebration into a character assassination, of taking their annoyance out on a kid who dared to act like he belonged. Behind it all, Irvin observed what he described as a systemic effort to undermine Shedeur's reputation before it had even been assigned a jersey number. Expectations come with the Sanders name, but so does the heat. Irvin also immediately connected the legacy to the hate. Deion Sanders' charisma, self-assurance, and flash transformed the game. Shedeur is now being told to calm down. What does Irvin think? That is jealousy between generations, not fair criticism. A media ecosystem and a league are uneasy about a new Sanders emerging on his own terms. Irvin was defending legitimate self-belief, not cockiness. He believed that having confidence is essential for success in the NFL. A timid person does not survive the league. Nevertheless, Shedeur's self-assurance has been misrepresented as arrogance. Where is this energy when other rookies show it off? Irvin asked the obvious. Then, where are the viral takedowns? Rex Ryan took a swing at Shedeur Sanders and immediately got flattened by Michael Irvin's firestorm of a response. After Ryan criticized Sanders' viral Rolex miming celebration, Irvin stormed into the conversation with vengeance. Not a debate, but to destroy what he saw as yet another cheap shot from a media machine addicted to tearing down confident young athletes, especially when they're named Sanders. Shedeur hasn't played it down in the NFL, but somehow he's already public enemy number one.
If you're into the real story and all the messy twists they don't show on highlight reels, go ahead and subscribe. And if you're sticking around to see how this Browns QB chaos plays out, you should definitely be subscribed.
Irvin called it straight. This isn't about behavior. It's about bias. A quarterback from any other background gets praised for moxie. Shedeur gets crucified. Irvin peeled back the media's polite veneer and exposed resentment underneath. The miming, the attitude, the confidence. It's only a problem because people are mad he has it. Michael Irvin wasn't speculating. He was accusing the media of orchestrated disrespect, of turning a confident celebration into character assassination, of projecting their frustrations onto a kid who dared to carry himself like someone who knows he belongs. And behind it all, Irvin saw what he called a systemic effort to chip away at Shedeur's credibility before he's even earned a jersey number. The Sanders name brings expectations, but also brings heat. And Irvin didn't hesitate to link the hate to the legacy. Deion Sanders revolutionized the game with charisma, confidence, and flash. Now Shedeur is being told to tone it down. Irvin's take? That's not fair criticism. That's generational jealousy. A league and a media ecosystem uncomfortable with a new Sanders rising on his own terms. Irvin wasn't defending cockiness. He was defending rightful self-belief. In his view, confidence is a prerequisite for NFL success. You don't survive the league timid. And yet, Shedeur's confidence has been recast as arrogance. Irvin asked the obvious. Where's this energy when other rookies flaunt it? Where are the viral takedowns then? What Irvin made crystal clear is this. Shedeur doesn't need media approval. He needs a clean field and a football. The rest? Noise. But the media, Irvin warned, isn't content waiting to judge him by his game. They want him humbled before the whistle ever blows. And that's exactly why Irvin spoke out, to say Shedeur doesn't owe humility to people rooting for his downfall. When Shedeur finally steps under center, it won't just be a debut. It'll be a reckoning, not just for critics, but for the system that tried to shrink him before he had the chance to show what he could do. Irvin's message was simple: let the kid play. And then, watch him silence everything. Michael Irvin didn't just offend Shedeur Sanders. He obliterated the media narrative forming around him before the kids even played an NFL snap. It wasn't a mild, let's wait and see moment. It was a full-throttle takedown of the double standards, the coded language, and the coordinated noise coming from critics who, let's be honest, were never rooting for Shedeur in the first place. The spark that lit the fire? A touchdown celebration. A watch miming gesture. That's it. That tiny flick of the wrist was enough to launch a cycle of media scrutiny and commentary that spiraled far beyond football. And Irvin wasn't having it. He made it clear, this isn't about a celebration. This is about control. About the comfort level of critics who only want confident players when it fits their script. The second someone like Shedeur Sanders shows personality, confidence, and legacy, the narrative shifts. It's no longer about ability. It becomes about humility. It becomes about leadership. It becomes a dog whistle for everything but talent. Irvin wasn't guessing. He was calling it exactly how it is. Shedeur's confidence? That's supposed to be a requirement to play quarterback at an elite level. But in his case, it's being painted as a flaw. Irvin broke it down in a way that was impossible to deny. This isn't isolated criticism. It's an organized effort to diminish a young player who has the nerve to show belief in himself before the media decides he's allowed to. Let's not pretend this is new. The second Shedeur entered the spotlight, the goalposts moved. Every move, every interview, every celebration was dissected, spun, and weaponized against him. And Irvin, a Hall of Famer who's seen every angle of the game, didn't need a stat sheet to see what was happening. He called out the hypocrisy in real time. Because what happens when a different quarterback celebrates? When someone else with a different name, a different background, flexes after a big moment. It's swagger. It's leadership. It's passion for the game. But when Shedeur does it, it's disrespectful. It's arrogant. It's premature. Irvin asked the one question that cuts through all the media noise. Why? Why is it okay for others to be confident, but not Shedeur? Why does his belief in himself trigger this wave of judgment, when we know every NFL player has to walk in with that exact same mindset to survive? It's not about the act. It's about the person doing it. And Irvin saw that from a mile away. He didn't just defend Shedeur. He defended the very concept of confidence for young athletes coming from a legacy background. Because let's be real, if Shedeur's last name wasn't Sanders, if his dad wasn't Dion, would the criticism be this loud? Would the media still be zooming in on hand gestures and swagger and tone? Probably not. The Sanders name brings weight. And some people just can't handle it. Irvin called out the resentment head-on. He said what so many people are too afraid to admit, that this criticism is fueled by jealousy, by discomfort, and by an obsession with tearing down athletes who carry themselves with pride before they're anointed by the system. The media doesn't like it when a young player controls the narrative. And Shedeur is doing exactly that. He doesn't need their validation. He's not waiting around for approval. He walks like he belongs because, newsflash, he does belong. He's earned every step of his journey. And Irvin wasn't going to let that be buried under weak arguments about sportsmanship and optics. Let's also talk about the timing here. Shedeur hasn't played one NFL down. Not one. Yet he's already being critiqued like a 10-year veteran who just threw 3 interceptions in a playoff game. That's what Irvin was furious about. How do you write off someone before they've even gotten a chance to prove themselves? This isn't normal criticism. This is projection. The media is dissecting his confidence as if it's something that needs to be fixed. But it's not confidence that's the issue. It's the way that confidence is received when it comes from someone like Shedeur. Someone who's young, black, bold, and backed by a Hall of Fame father. Someone who's been told from day one that he has to earn the right to believe in himself, while others are praised just for walking into the room. Irvin's voice cut through all of it, loud, emotional, and unfiltered, because he knows the damage this kind of criticism can do. When young athletes are constantly told to dial it back, to tone it down, to shrink themselves to fit into a version of humility that doesn't actually apply to anyone else, it chips away at their identity. And Irvin wasn't about to let that happen to Shedeur. He's seen too many players crushed under the weight of manufactured controversy. But Shedeur, he's different. He's not just surviving the scrutiny. He's standing in it. And Irvin knows that kind of mental toughness is exactly what will carry him in the league. Because the field doesn't care about media spin. It doesn't care who's uncomfortable with a celebration. It cares about production, execution, wins. And that's where Shedeur is going to do the real talking. Irvin laid out the blueprint. Ignore the noise, focus on the game, and let the results shut everyone up. And that's the irony in all this. The louder the criticism gets, the more Shedeur's profile rises. The more they try to bury him in questions about character, the more he shows exactly why he's ready. Because this isn't a kid looking for attention. It's a quarterback who's used the pressure, who understands what his last name means, and who's prepared to carry it without apology. Irvin didn't ask for special treatment. He asked for fairness, for the media to give Shedeur the same space they give other players to grow, to make mistakes, to develop without being torn apart for every expression of self-belief. It's not complicated. It's just consistent. But consistency is exactly what's missing from the coverage. Somehow, the same media that celebrates dog mentality in other athletes sees Shedeur's self-assurance as ego. The same pundits who demand leadership are threatened when it shows up in a package they didn't expect. And Irvin was done letting that slide. He pulled the curtain back on the media playbook and said enough. Because Shedeur doesn't need to be rebranded to fit anyone's comfort zone. He doesn't need to downplay his legacy or dilute his personality to be palatable. He just needs to play. And when he does, Irvin's prediction couldn't be clearer. The results will speak for themselves. All the noise, all the analysis, all the half-baked takes, they'll evaporate the second Shedeur starts doing what he was built to do. Perform, win, lead. The league can't stop what's coming. The critics can't spin stats. And the moment Shedeur gets the stage, every ounce of that arrogance they hate so much will look a lot more like accuracy. So if you're tired of the same tired narratives, if you're ready to see confidence treated like a strength instead of a red flag, and if you're riding with athletes who refuse to shrink to make critics comfortable, go ahead and drop your thoughts in the comments. Are you with Irvin on this one? Is the media out of line? Or is Shedeur just rewriting the rules in real time? Either way, subscribe and stay locked in. Because Shedeur's story is just getting started. And by the time he hits that field, the conversation is going to look very different. Let's be clear. When Shedeur Sanders steps onto that NFL field, it's not just about football anymore. It's about vindication. It's about proof. Proof that everything Michael Irvin said, every word shouted through clenched teeth on national television, wasn't just a passionate rant. It was a forecast. Because this isn't just a young quarterback trying to break into the league. It's a young man trying to break through a wall of pre-written narratives, generational expectations, and frankly, some deeply rooted bias that has nothing to do with his playbook and everything to do with his name, his posture, and his confidence. And Michael Irvin saw the trap being set. He saw the setup from a mile away. The NFL media machine has done this before. Hype up a kid to draw attention, then tear him down the second he shows a personality they don't approve of. It's not even subtle anymore. The double standards are out in the open. One quarterback wears chains. He's cool. One mimics a watch. He's a problem. One gets loud and animated. He's a competitor. Another does it. He's showboating. It's not about celebration. It's about who's allowed to celebrate. And Shedeur? He's not asking for permission. That's what's really driving the outrage. Not the watch gesture. Not his social media presence. Not even his last name. It's the fact that he won't shrink himself to make the establishment feel safe. He's not playing the game the way they want. He's not softening his edges. He's showing up fully formed, with generational swagger and the work ethic to back it up. And some people just can't stomach that. Michael Irvin wasn't about to let those people win. He stood up and said what needed to be said. Shedeur Sanders is not the problem. He's a target. He's being dissected, criticized, and micromanaged before he's even played a single down of NFL football. That is the problem. And when Irvin said confidence is essential, he meant it, not as a nice sentiment, but as a requirement. You can't play quarterback in the NFL without believing in yourself with every fiber of your being. That's not arrogance. That's survival. But let's talk about the real irony here. These same critics who are so uncomfortable with Shedeur's confidence, they're the same ones who'll be the first to flip when he starts winning. They'll rebrand him in real time. You'll hear words like matured, settled, gain perspective. But what they'll really mean is, we didn't get to define him, and now we're playing catch up. That's how the cycle works. Step 1. Criticize a confident young athlete. Step 2. Hope they fail. Step 3. When they don't, pretend you always saw the potential. Irvin's rant interrupted that cycle. He put the brakes on the takedown attempt before it could go full throttle. He reminded everyone watching that what's happening to Shedeur isn't analysis, it's projection. It's media figures placing their own insecurities, their own biases, onto a player who refuses to shrink. And let's not pretend that this kind of critique is just about Shedeur as an individual. This is what happens when a family like the Sanders family refuses to fade into retirement. Deion's not just a proud father. He's a disruptor. He's flipped entire programs, challenged entire institutions, and refused to know his place in the hierarchy of football politics. So naturally, that spotlight follows Shedeur. But instead of being embraced as part of a powerful legacy, he's targeted as an extension of it. Every move he makes gets extra scrutiny. Every gesture is loaded. Every sentence is twisted. And Irvin knew exactly what that kind of pressure does to young players. That's why he had to speak. Because what we're seeing isn't fair criticism. It's preloaded judgment. What makes this even more ridiculous is that none of this is performance-based. The issue here isn't bad game. It's not poor leadership. It's not locker room issues. It's literally optics, perception, a celebration that, let's be honest, wasn't even controversial. It's a hand gesture. And yet, here we are, media segments, heated debates, words like entitlement and attitude being thrown around like he disrespected the game itself. It's a masterclass in missing the point. Because while people argue about how he celebrates, they're ignoring what he's preparing for. Shedeur isn't out here coasting on a name. He's outworking most of the people criticizing him. He's studying film, staying locked in, and shouldering expectations that would flatten a lesser athlete. But because he does it with style, because he does it with confidence, suddenly it's too much? That's what Irvin was boiling over about. He knows the game. He knows the pressure. And more importantly, he knows the coded language. When someone starts talking about a player needing to stay humble, what they often mean is, stop making us uncomfortable. And that's where the conversation takes a turn. Because it's not just about football. It's about who is allowed to lead, who gets the benefit of the doubt, who is granted grace during their learning curve, and who is expected to come in already perfect, already polished, already humbled, just to be deemed acceptable. Irvin said it plain. Give Shedeur the same grace you give every other quarterback. Stop holding him to a different standard just because you don't like how confidently he carries himself. Let the man play before you write the narrative. But you know what's coming next. If Shedeur throws 2 touchdowns his first game, everyone will act like none of this ever happened. The headlines will change overnight. The tone will soften. The critics will pivot. Because once the numbers hit the stat sheet, everything else becomes background noise. That's the moment Irvin is waiting for. The moment Shedeur gets a shot and proves on the field that the talk was just that. Talk. The noise, the controversy, the drama. It'll all melt the second the scoreboard lights up. But until that moment, he needs support. He needs space. He needs fairness. And that's what Irvin was fighting for. Not special treatment. Not silence. Just fairness. Let Shedeur walk into this league with the same opportunity as everyone else. Let his play do the talking. And until then, stop turning every expression of confidence into a national debate. Because if this is how you treat someone before they play, what are you going to say when he starts winning? That's the uncomfortable question no one on those panels wants to answer. But Michael Irvin already has the answer. He's seen this movie before. And he knows exactly how it ends, with Shedeur Sanders shutting down every critic with the one thing they can't twist or spin: performance. So whether you're a fan, a skeptic, or just here for the drama, the message is clear. Don't count him out. Don't let the noise fool you. Because the real story hasn't even started yet. And when it does, the miming won't matter. The headlines won't matter. The critics won't matter. Only the scoreboard will. The next chapter? It's not being written in press rooms or studio sets. It's being written in locker rooms, weight rooms, and film sessions. It's being carved out in silence while everyone else is too busy shouting. That's what Michael Irvin sees. He knows that while the media is scrambling to define Shedeur, the kid himself is locked in, focused. He's not chasing headlines. He's chasing greatness. But the headlines just won't stop. All because Shedeur had the audacity to celebrate, to flex, to express himself the same way dozens of quarterbacks have done before him, and the same way they'll do again this season. The difference? He did it before being invited into the club. And that's what people can't stand. There's this unspoken rule, especially in football, that young players have to pay their dues quietly. Keep your head down. Don't talk too much. Don't celebrate too hard. And above all, don't act like you belong before the league says you do. But Shedeur, he never signed up for that. And that's exactly why Michael Irvin had to step in and say what everyone else was avoiding, that Shedeur's being targeted. Not because he's done anything wrong, but because he refuses to shrink. Because he walks like someone who knows who he is. That confidence, it comes from somewhere. It's not manufactured. It's not forced. It's lived. It's built off years of work, legacy, and expectation. And if Shedeur acted less confident, people would still criticize him for not being ready. That's the trap. That's the setup. Confidence gets labeled as ego. Humility gets called weakness. And no matter what he does, there's a section of the media that will twist it to fit their pre-written take. But Irvin's rant flipped the script. For a moment, the loudest voice in the room was one telling the truth. That this isn't about Shedeur's celebration, it's about control. It's about certain people in media feeling threatened by a player they can't box in. And let's talk about the legacy angle, because that's the core of this. The Sanders name isn't just famous, it's disruptive. Deion Sanders didn't just play the game. He changed it. He turned flash into substance. He made confidence the default setting. He made being loud and proud not only acceptable, but iconic. And now Shedeur is doing the same. And suddenly the rules are changing again. Suddenly confidence is immature. Suddenly swagger needs to be dialed back. Michael Irvin sees it for what it is. Resentment disguised as analysis. They're not mad at Shedeur for being flashy. They're mad that he's walking the path his father built without asking for directions. They're mad that he hasn't asked for permission to exist in their version of what an NFL quarterback should look like, sound like, act like. But Shedeur isn't here to meet expectations. He's here to reset them. And honestly, it's working. The fact that people are this rattled over a touchdown gesture, that tells you everything. That watch mime, it hit nerves. Not because it was offensive, but because it was confident. Because it was unapologetic. That's what shook them. That's what always does. Because every generation, someone like Shedeur comes along and dares to walk into a room like he owns it, before he's handed the keys. And the system doesn't know how to handle that. It panics. It lashes out. It tries to humble what it can't control. But Shedeur isn't rattled. And Irvin knows that's the most dangerous thing of all. Because a quarterback who isn't shaken by media noise, who trusts his process, his preparation, and his people, that's a quarterback who's going to walk onto that field and take what's his, no matter who tries to gatekeep the spotlight. So when Irvin shouted when he fired back at the criticism, it wasn't just for Shedeur. It was for every young athlete who's ever been told to tone it down before they've even had a chance to show up. It was a message. Don't let them define you before you've even started. And when Shedeur gets that first snap in the NFL, everything changes. The debates? Irrelevant. The commentary? Background noise. All that matters is performance. Execution. Results. And those are the three things Shedeur's been preparing for since the first time he picked up a football. So, to every critic still clinging to their takes, to every analyst pretending this is about character, to every voice trying to dull Shedeur's shine, enjoy the spotlight while it lasts. Because when the game begins and the lights hit and the ball leaves his hand, you won't be able to talk over the scoreboard. Let us know what you think. Is Irvin right? Is Shedeur being unfairly judged? Or is this just the cost of carrying a legacy? Drop a comment, join the conversation, and subscribe. Because when the season kicks off, you won't want to be the one catching up to the story.